Hey everyone, welcome to the Ex-Wives Lounge podcast. Today I have a really special guest on, Dr. Shayla Chapman. She's a licensed psychotherapist here in Orange County, California. Thank you so much for being on today.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
I appreciate you joining me.
Of course. Thank you for your warm invitation. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, I'm so excited to have you. So EMDR, huge proponent in my healing process post-divorce. But it doesn't need to just be for post-divorce. It can be for couples. So to the viewers and listeners that maybe don't know anything about EMDR, let's start at the foundation of EMDR therapy. What exactly is it? How does it work? And how can it help you through trauma?
Yes. EMDR is definitely becoming more popular. So I will go ahead and say what it is, the long drawn out version. Not everyone knows. It's called eye movement desensitization reprocessing.
Okay.
And it originally was discovered for vets who came back from Vietnam War as an effective trauma therapy to help reduce symptoms of PTSD.
Okay.
Over the years, we've learned through different studies and trials and things like that it's actually really effective for other things other than just PTSD. But what it does is it allows your brain to focus on the incident that we revisit in therapy, which is the trauma, the disturbing event,
Right.
while we apply what's called a bilateral stimulation. So it could be eye movements where you're looking at something and you're looking left and right. It could be tapping. Anything that you have an alternate, you're alternating left and right movement or eye movement produces the same reaction in the brain, where both sides of the brain are processing at the same time.
Right.
When we have a traumatic event, part of our brain kind of shuts down because we have to go into fight, flight, or freeze. And so it's almost like that experience gets trapped in that one kind of area in our brain, in that neural network.
Okay.
What EMDR does is when we're either holding the tappers or doing the eye movements and revisiting the traumatic event, it's allowing your brain to do something that it has never done before when you're visiting the trauma. So it's allowing it to kind of break up and activate different areas of the brain.
Process,
of course, yeah. But definitely it activates different areas of the brain that don't get activated when you're just talking about the event.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that activation in the other areas of the brain while you're revisiting it in therapy is what causes you to actually become a little bit more desensitized. So you don't have this hyper arousal response when something triggers you or reminds you of the disturbing event from the past.
Got it.
So I use a lot of EMDR in my therapy with individuals and also couples.
Okay.
And a lot of them don't necessarily meet criteria for post-traumatic stress disorder.
Right.
But I will do it with couples or individuals who have what we call relational trauma from childhood.
Okay.
So when if someone comes in and they are, in a marriage, and they're finding themselves kind of fighting the same fight over and over, I always like to ask, what their upbringing was like and try to see and assess, was there some relational trauma growing up? And that could have been anything from one or both parents being emotionally unavailable or really only teaching them their self-worth was from, getting good grades.
Right.
Or maybe they came from a home where feelings weren't encouraged to display them, to talk about them. They were maybe, their consequences for...
emotion was too vulnerability or weak?
Yes.
I guess you could say?
Yes, or not acceptable in the family.
Got it.
Some people might say I grew up in a family where we didn't talk about things. The elephant was in the room, but we would cry in our room. We wouldn't cry at the dinner table or something like that. And so when we have that experience, sometimes that can translate into adult marital issues where now the person equates a healthy relationship with not being vulnerable.
Wow.
With being scared to rely on a partner. Maybe they're hyper independent.
Right.
And so they see that as kind of their safety place. But in reality, when you're in a partnership, that's very isolating for the other partner who's there with them and like, hey, you're my partner in this. Why don't you ever come to me and talk to me about this? Or how come you don't share things more that are more vulnerable and deeper? And so it can cause a lot of issues.
Like a big emotional disconnect within their relationship.
Yeah, definitely emotional disconnect. And it can be really hard for the person receiving treatment.
Right.
Because they kind of think, well, like, am I the problem?
Right.
Like, we came here for couples therapy, but like, why am I now doing individual EMDR? And so I try to explain to my couples that, you know, when I work with them, no one person's the problem.
Right.
That's not how it works. You're a couple, it's a dynamic.
It's a team.
Yeah. And this, I explain it as like, this is just a block that we're going to remove.
Right.
It's been a barrier to making progress or, you know, getting deeper into the issues in your marriage.
Right.
This is just one barrier that we're going to conquer before getting back to you two and being able to really work through stuff.
What if you have a partner that is against EMDR, even though that partner is the issue in the relationship in regards to the one that comes from childhood or generational trauma, but isn't seeing it or is not wanting to be vulnerable and work on it? What do you normally tell the other spouse if they're like, I can't tow this boat all by myself or alone?
Yeah.
How do you handle that scenario when one's up for it and the other one's like, no, this is just... I don't believe in it. Right.
Yeah, I experience that quite a bit when I work with couples. Now, do you mean they don't want to do EMDR specifically, or they're disengaged in the couples therapy in general?
EMDR.
EMDR. Okay. So if I were to say to one of the two people there, I would recommend EMDR for you.
Right.
And their initial reaction is no. I would say, okay, let's explore that a little bit. I want to understand kind of where your hesitation is. What are some of your expectations and why is it a no?
Right.
And, to be honest, it's not a great fit for everybody.
Right.
So I think it's totally fine saying, is it you're not open to doing EMDR because you don't feel like this would be a good modality for you? Or is it that you're not open to trying something therapeutically because you don't feel like you're the problem?
Right.
So if, they don't want to do EMDR, that's totally fine. There are other ways we can kind of work through stuff.
Right.
It might take a little bit longer. EMDR is pretty efficient. But I never want anyone to do EMDR that's not educated about it, that they don't, they need to feel resourced and prepared.
Right.
And confident that, it's their choice. I would never want to force it. But again, is it I don't want to do EMDR because I'm scared of it and it doesn't make sense and I'm worried about that? Or is it like, I don't really, like, I'm here to, because of her or him.
Right, right.
I just want to kind of sit here and listen.
Right.
Those are two very different things.
Yes, no, they very much are.
Yeah. And if I have a couple where a partner, I can kind of assess. I usually like to give it like three to four sessions to kind of see, who's more engaged.
Right.
Like I can usually tell like who got dragged here. Surprisingly, it's not always the woman who drags the husband. I work with primarily heterosexual couples, but I do have a handful of same-sex couples. So all those dynamics, play a role.
Oh, yes.
But sometimes it's, so-and-so wanted me to come. They've been saying we need it.
Yeah.
So now I'm willing.
Yeah.
And then other times it's kind of an ultimatum where one partner comes or reaches out to me and says, hey, we're not doing well. And we're considering separation or divorce. This is our last ditch effort at seeing if this can work.
I feel like therapy is that one last ditch effort with most couples that are on the brink of divorce.
That's very true. And it's very sad because it doesn't have to be that way. Premarital counseling, premarital couples therapy is so underrated.
Yes.
And not discussed. And even, I feel like there are seasons in a relationship.
Of course,
where it should just be automatic.
Right.
This is an amazing time.
Right.
That would be really helpful to go to therapy. When you have been dating and you start to get you feeling more serious, thinking about a future together, potentially maybe you just got engaged.
Right.
The focus is so much about the ring, the venue, the wedding, the dress, that you'd be surprised how many couples I see who've been married and like they haven't ever had conversations the first few years they were together about like who's coming in with debt, what's the expectation of us paying this debt off, what are our family goals, what is the expectation of, you know, child rearing, and are you okay if I don't want children?
Yes.
You think you are now, but then like, you know, so
compatibility
is huge. Yeah.
You know, so many opposites attract, but that doesn't mean that it's going to last the long haul.
Very true.
You know, difference in upbringing plays a huge factor into compatibility from my own personal experience in marriage.
Yes.
You know, when you're fighting about things that you don't agree on because one person was raised a certain way and you were raised a different way, that then factors into how your parenting styles are going to be.
So much so.
You know?
And what I try to help my couples with in that example is when we come into the session and we think my way is better.
Yes, of course.
You know, your background, the way you were raised is better or worse than mine. Typically it's like, we know it better. Our way is better.
Right.
You're the one that had that kind of childhood. It doesn't align with me. And so when that comes up, I really try to encourage my couples to take a step back and say, okay, it's not right or wrong. Can we, you know, let's step back and be more curious.
Right.
What do you imagine if you grew up in a home that was really, everyone was in each other's business and passionate and, you know, maybe loose boundaries, but emotions were all over the place and that was normal, right?
Yes.
But you married someone who grew up in a very opposite home where feelings were kept in pretty tight. And no one could ever tell if mom or dad or whoever were upset, you know, and kids couldn't sense it. That's very different. It doesn't mean one's, you know, I mean, I would argue one's a little healthier in terms of setting up children for a healthy emotional development for an adulthood.
Right.
But it's helping couples say like, okay, it doesn't mean his or her way was wrong.
Right or wrong.
Or that my way is better. That's like the hardest part, honestly.
Oh, I trust me, I know.
Is helping couples step back and say, what's my role in this?
Yes.
Can I be curious?
Right.
Can I be open-minded? You know, if they come to me at the point in their relationship where there's so much resentment, so much animosity, and it's threats, do this or else, I really have to work with them first on kind of loosening up that those guards, the anger, working through some of that to soften them, to be able to move to that kind of next phase where they're more open, curious, neutral at the very least, but hopefully kind, and remember like this was someone that they fell in love with.
Right. Yeah, no, I'm full-heartedly open to the idea of premarital therapy and counseling. And like you said, it's not taken seriously enough, you know, because it really will open up both your eyes to whether or not you are right for each other. You know, we get so wrapped up in the honeymoon phase, the lust and the excitement, like you said, of the wedding and getting engaged. And maybe that's more of a female thing, I'm not sure, but I would tend to say that it is. Yeah. You know, because as little girls, we grow up thinking that that's our Prince Charming and we're going to have this amazing, you know, wedding.
And I think part of that is society's wrongdoing.
Yes.
Right? Like we get fed that narrative. And I think it sets us up for failure, for having this completely false expectation of what a relationship and marriage looks like for sure. And I don't know if it's like it's not sexy, like premarital therapy. It's like that's a time in your life where you're sharing, you're celebrating, you're shopping, you're planning. Like who wants to go and behind closed doors, you're falling in love, your honeymoon phase, and you're having
and start
conversations
digging into all your
childhood
traumas,
credit card debt, or what happens if one of us becomes incapacitated? How do we feel about that? What happens if something happens with our parent? Like, are we okay with in-laws
moving in? Correct.
You know, what happens if our kid needs support in a way that we don't imagine.
Yes.
What are our thoughts and feelings about this?
Yes.
It's not that you have to plan it all out, but having those conversations, again, are not sexy.
Right.
So I can see why a lot of people don't jump on the bandwagon.
Right.
But
so
it's
imperative,
such an important investment.
It is.
For your future
relationship.
And
that's literally, you took the words right out of my mouth. It's an investment into your future.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're making the commitment to one another, or supposed to be making the commitment to one another, till death do us part.
Mm-hmm.
So why not invest in that partnership and make it the most beautiful thing you possibly can?
Yeah.
And I think you'll agree, communication is the biggest thing that I have seen that lacks with partnership. Is either one person's really good at communicating their feelings and the other one is either not a good communicator or isn't good about validating or any of those things.
Yeah.
And then it's like the resentment starts creeping in with the good communicator because they feel like they're not being heard or supported.
That's true. And as a therapist, I would say that's a very common perspective,
right.
Is that communication is actually the biggest issue.
Right.
Communication can be the biggest symptom that we first couple of sessions, we see it as an issue.
Right.
9 times out of 10, it's actually not about communication.
Okay.
It's stuff we're bringing from our past that we're unaware of, and it's affecting how we're showing up with our partner.
I like that.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
If it's someone learning to communicate their feelings, like, yeah, you can talk more.
Right.
But if you come from a place in your own background where when you do that, you disconnect. You don't really, like, you're talking at the person instead of to the person.
Right.
I can teach someone to communicate their feelings all day, but that doesn't change that dynamic where the receiving person, the person listening, is like, I don't feel like you're hearing me.
Right.
You're telling me what
Right.
I'm saying. You're practicing the validation that we're working on in therapy.
Right.
But I don't feel you here.
Right.
And a lot of that comes from just our own stuff we're unaware of.
Right.
From our own upbringing.
Yeah. No, that's
But on
so
the surface, it
interesting.
definitely seems like communication issues or defensiveness, right?
Yes.
Defensiveness or invalidating.
Yes.
Like, okay, like, it's not that big of a deal.
Right.
We can work. I can help people work on that. But again, most of the time, it's deeper
than just the
stuff.
communication lack.
Yeah.
Now, to all my ladies who I'm very passionate about helping through the divorce process and post-divorce process, EMDR was the thing that I threw myself into during the divorce. And then once everything was finalized, it was literally, I was living in my therapist's office. I did EMDR twice a week for 2 years. And I would say that it really helped me work through the feelings that come with the divorce, failing and, not being worthy of finding somebody after that, right? And losing my confidence and losing my edge, so to speak, right? Because you feel guilt, you feel resentment, especially if you have children in the mix. You feel all those horrible things.
Of course.
What can EMDR do for a person, man or woman, because I do have males that are also divorced that follow the podcast. What can EMDR do for them post-divorce in regards to working through that trauma, and how does it help them come out and get excited and ready to start that next chapter without carrying that trauma from the divorce into their next relationship?
Great question. And I don't want to go into too much detail because it can get kind of like psychobabble-y.
Right.
But the bullet points, I think the take-home things that are important to know is it not only helps you physically process a trauma from the past, whether it was a horrible fight you had with your partner, and even though you're pursuing divorce, right? That's something that really sticks out at you.
Right.
Not only does it help your body and mind kind of get on the same page, because when we revisit these things, your mind is in the past, that past event, and your body also feels like you're getting thrown back there. So with the EMDR, it aligns your thoughts, your mind, and your body so that you can reestablish that sense of safety.
Yep.
Like, that was a really shitty thing that happened. And my body doesn't react that like as if it is right now, because it knows it's here present and safe, okay.
Right.
The second thing it is really helpful in doing is what we call installing a positive cognition.
Okay.
So when we, ask the client, okay, tell me about a disturbing memory that we're going to focus on, one of the other questions is, what belief about yourself did you take away from that experience?
That's huge.
And it could be something, it's a very specific statement. It's like, oh, ever since that, now I know that I took the belief like I'm unworthy.
Yes.
Or I'm unsafe.
Yes.
Or I'm not enough. I'm not important.
Right.
Or I'm responsible. Or I don't have control. Things like that.
Yes.
And so, that second component is by the end of the EMDR work, we will have installed, is just the term for it,
right,
that old memory with the new belief, which is the opposite of what you originally believed. So if it was I'm unsafe, we desensitize that memory and eventually get you to, with the tappers or the eye movements, with I am safe.
I am safe.
I am safe.